Okay, so we've all been there, right? You pour all this energy into a sales presentation, you lay out every feature, the price seems right, the benefits are obvious, quality's there, and you're sitting there thinking, this is a slam dunk.
Yeah.
And then you get that line that, I'll think about it. Or maybe we just don't have the time right now. It's just maddening, isn't it, that feeling? You have a brilliant solution, but the customer just isn't grabbing it.
It really is. And what's often missed, I think, is that the problem usually isn't the product itself or the service. Almost always, the real issue is, well, the approach you're taking.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. Our mission, really, is to help turn those I'll think about it moments into, wow, I need this right now. We're going to unpack the really powerful ideas in gap selling. It's from Keenan's book, which, it's world-renowned for a reason. It's really shifted how people think about sales, boosted closing rates for so many professionals. So today, we're pulling out the 8, the most impactful lessons from it. We'll show you how to find that critical gap, between where the customer is struggling now and where they actually want to be. How to genuinely dig into their pain points, create that natural urgency, and crucially, close deals without feeling like you're, pushing too hard. It's more about guiding.
Exactly. And the shift it brings is, well, it's fundamental. It completely reframes the whole conversation. You stop just sort of pushing products. Instead, you're tapping into core human drives, understanding their challenges. It becomes about transformation for them, not just, a simple transaction.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this, to turn those lukewarm responses around, we need to start at the beginning. What is gap selling at its core? What's the big idea?
Right. The core concept is incredibly powerful, but it's actually pretty simple when you break it down. Let me try painting 2 pictures for you. Imagine today's city. Picture it. Jammed traffic, potholes everywhere, constant struggles, just, grinding through the day.
Sounds familiar.
Right. Now picture a future city. Wide, smooth roads, super efficient systems. Life just feels easy, streamlined. Now, if I asked you, which city would you rather live in? The answer is pretty obvious, isn't it?
Absolutely. The future one, no question. Who wouldn't want that easier life?
And that's the point. But it's also where a lot of salespeople, frankly, stumble. They jump straight into listing features. Our software, it's super fast. This machine saves electricity. Our service has X, Y, and Z. But hang on. Customers aren't really buying features. They're buying a way out of their current struggle.
Oh, okay.
They're buying that bridge, the bridge from their current city with all the traffic jams and potholes to that future city with the smooth roads and easy living. The gap, that space between their current state and their desired future state, that's the real product you should be selling.
So the magic isn't just what your product is, but what it does for them, how it closes that gap. And you're saying the bigger you make that gap seem, the more they'll want to cross it. That really makes sense. People forget specs, but they definitely remember pain and getting rid of it.
Spot on. When you can really paint that picture, their struggle now and that shining future, the gap becomes so real, so visible. They'll often just say it themselves. Yeah, I need this change.
It changes everything. So, okay, how do we actually pivot? How do we shift from just talking about our product's attributes to focusing on the customer's underlying problems?
It really boils down to being problem-centric. Think about it like this. Someone's starving, right? You wouldn't start listing a huge menu. We've got pasta, pizza, curry, steak. No, they just want food. Now, the old way in sales was often just listing virtues. Our machine, fastest on the market, 10 new features, most advanced. But the customer's always thinking, okay, but how does that fix my issue?
Right. What's in it for me?
Exactly. Gap selling flips that. It says, don't just sell the product. Lead with the problem. Really bring their struggle to the surface. Make them feel it. And then show how your solution makes it go away.
Can you give us a concrete example, maybe with something like CRM software?
Sure. Good example. A product-centric salesperson might say, look at our CRM. 50 new features. Great dashboard, very colorful, automates reports. It's all about the tool.
Okay, typical pitch.
Now, a problem-centric salesperson using gap selling would ask something different. Maybe, does your sales team get seriously bogged down in data entry, spending hours on it? And maybe the reports are still kind of messy, inaccurate.
Hitting a nerve there.
Now imagine, what if data entry time was cut by, say, 80% in those reports? Generated automatically, in real time. How much more could your team actually sell if they got all that time back?
Wow. Okay. That second approach hits completely differently. It speaks directly to a real pain. Makes the solution feel, well, essential.
That's the key takeaway. Customers buy solutions. Solutions to their problems, not just products. The real power in your pitch, it comes from how problem-centric it is. The clearer you define their current pain, the more valuable your solution looks. But this brings up a really important question, actually.
It is.
How do we actually find these problems, especially when customers might not just, lay them all out for us?
Yeah, exactly. People get used to inefficiencies, don't they? They just live with these pain points. Sometimes they don't even realize how much it's costing them. So how do we pinpoint those real issues, the ones holding them back, when maybe they don't even see them clearly themselves?
Okay, think about this analogy. A doctor. Would you trust a doctor who just walks in and immediately writes you a prescription without asking about symptoms, without running any tests?
No, definitely not. I'd be out of there.
Right. You'd question their competence. Well, salespeople often fail for the same reason. They push a product without truly understanding the customer's actual difficulties. Gap selling basically says you need to become a diagnostic expert first. Understanding their current state, their struggles, that's the absolute most crucial first step. Without knowing that, your solution just feels like random medicine. Pointless.
So it's like being a detective of pain points, asking the right questions to really light up that before picture so clearly they can't ignore it. But how do you get them to open up, to actually say the painful stuff out loud?
It's all about asking the right kind of questions, not just simple yes-no ones. You need smart, probing questions. Questions that make the customer stop, think, and actually feel the pain. Vocalize it. Bring it right to the front of their mind. For instance, you might ask, roughly how much time does your team actually waste each month creating these reports?
Okay, quantifying it.
Or can you think of any specific losses, maybe financial ones you've incurred because of, say, incorrect data from your current system? You could even try, have you ever had a situation where delayed or inaccurate numbers actually caused you to postpone a critical business decision? Or maybe even make the wrong one?
Ooh, those questions definitely make you reflect. Maybe even squirm a bit, confronting that reality.
Exactly. That's the goal. Make them really consider their situation. And once they recognize it, once they articulate it, once they admit, yeah, actually, my current situation is causing me problems, that's when the real sales process starts. Because now they have an internal motivation to change.
Okay, so we've helped them see their current state clearly. The pain is out in the open. But just pointing out problems isn't enough, is it? Feels a bit negative on its own. We need to show them the way out.
That's absolutely the other critical half of this. Just highlighting problems. It won't necessarily drive action. It might just make them depressed. You have to paint a vivid picture of the future. A future where those problems are just gone. Solved. Imagine like going to bed wishing things were better, your team worked more easily, fewer errors, more profit, maybe just more free time for yourself, and then waking up the next morning and finding all those wishes came true. That's the feeling you want to evoke when you talk about the desired future state.
So you're saying the salesperson's real job isn't just finding problems, but actually creating this compelling vision, a world without those problems. Like selling a dream, a new reality.
Precisely. You're not just selling a tool, you're selling a transformation, a vision. Take a marketing automation tool again. Current state might be. Right now, your team spends maybe 20 hours a week digging up 10,000 leads, but honestly, half of them are probably junk.
Okay, the harsh reality.
It ain't the future. Now, picture this. The whole process is automated. Your team spends maybe just 5 hours a week, and they get 500 highly qualified leads. Can you just imagine how your sales graph would soar with that kind of efficiency?
Yeah, that's a stark contrast. Or what about something personal, like a health program?
Good example. You'd contrast the current state, maybe constant fatigue, poor sleep, feeling overwhelmed by work pressure, with a future state, deep, refreshing sleep every night, high energy all day, laser focus at work. Then you ask them, can you really see yourself living like that?
Yeah.
Feeling that way? This is the core insight, really. When you clearly show clients not just the pain they're in now, but also that bright, achievable future, they'll inherently want that change. They'll start thinking, yes, I want that, and I want it now. The clearer you paint it, the faster they move.
Okay, this is clicking. We've defined the current struggle. We've painted the compelling future. We have the two cities. But how do we make that gap feel so significant, so undeniable? How do we make them feel they need to decide now? Without being pushy?
It comes down to making the cost of not changing feel unbearable. Think about the stone in the shoe analogy. A tiny pebble. Annoying, maybe. You might put up with it for a bit. I'll deal with it later.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
But what if that pebble feels like a big, sharp rock, making every single step painful? Agony. You wouldn't just keep walking, would you? You'd stop right then and there and get rid of it immediately. Customers react kind of the same way to their business problems. If the problem feels small, manageable, they procrastinate. But if that gap, that pain feels large, acute, really costly, they act.
So our job is to sort of amplify that pebble, make it feel like a boulder they can't ignore.
Exactly. You need to show them in concrete terms what they are losing right now by doing nothing, by staying in their current state. This could be financial. Look, based on this, you realistically stand to lose, let's say, 6 figures over the next 6 months if this isn't fixed. Or time. Your team is currently wasting, what, 20 hours every week on this? That's over 1,000 hours a year down the drain. And don't forget the emotional or operational cost. Do you realize maybe 50% of your team's effort is just spent correcting mistakes instead of actually growing the business?
That's powerful framing. It's not just about future gains, it's about the ongoing loss they're experiencing right now by standing still.
People fundamentally change when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the perceived pain or effort of changing. It's that simple. The more real, the more urgent you make that current pain and the associated risk, the faster they'll decide. Your solution stops being a nice-to-have. It becomes an absolute must-have. Take cybersecurity software, for example. A vendor shouldn't just say, our software is good, it'll keep you safe. That's weak.
Okay, so what should they say?
They should say something like, right now, companies like yours face over 10,000 cyber attack attempts every week. Just one getting through could cost you millions in fines, recovery, reputation. Our solution, it demonstrably prevents 95% of those specific types of attacks that are hitting you.
Okay, yeah, that message hits completely differently. It's not just good, it feels critical, essential. So that clarity around the gap, the cost of the gap, drives the urgency. Makes sense. But okay, what about those objections, the ones that always come up? It's too expensive, we don't have time, we already use someone else. They feel like hitting a brick wall sometimes.
Right, and this is where gap selling is actually really elegant, those objections. They aren't roadblocks, they're not walls, they're actually doors. Doors that lead you right back to discussing the gap. The golden rule here is don't argue. Don't fight the objection head on. Instead, you calmly use the objection itself to re-emphasize the cost of not changing.
So wait, you're saying treat objections as an opportunity to talk more about their pain. Doesn't that risk, I don't know, annoying them? Constantly bringing it back to the negative. How do you keep the rapport?
That's a really crucial point. It's not about just hammering the pain. It's about reframing the objection in light of the pain. Think about a personal trainer again. Client says, I just don't have time to exercise. A smart trainer doesn't argue, well, you have to make time. No. They might say something like, I totally understand how busy you are, but isn't that exact lack of time? Isn't that contributing to your health declining, to feeling tired all the time? And honestly, if things don't change, isn't there a risk you'll be forced to spend even more time, maybe dealing with health issues down the road, perhaps even in a hospital? See, the conversation shifts. It's not an argument. It's connecting the objection back to the deeper consequences.
That's brilliant. Okay, I see. It links the objection directly back to their current pain and the potential future loss. So how does this work with those common business objections you mentioned?
Let's take them one by one, based on the source material. This is too expensive. You might respond, I hear you. It can seem like a significant investment up front, but let's look at the flip side. If your team's current, say, 30% lower productivity is costing you, let's figure it out, maybe $1 million annually, isn't our solution actually a much smaller cost compared to that ongoing loss?
Okay, reframing cost against the cost of inaction. What about, we don't have time right now?
You pivot again. I completely get that things are hectic, but the reality is the longer this issue goes unaddressed, the more those losses we talked about will pile up. What do you estimate the specific cost of delaying this will be, say, over the next 3 months?
Making the delay itself costly. And the competitor one. We already use X.
Acknowledge it first. That's great. You're already investing in solutions in this area. That shows it's important. But let me ask you, is that current tool fully solving all the problems we discussed? Are there still errors happening? Is time still being wasted? Are opportunities being missed? If the answer is yes, even partly, that's the remaining gap. And that's precisely where we can potentially help you bridge it.
So objections aren't conversation killers. They're actually invitations to dig deeper, to really clarify the cost of staying put.
Exactly. When you start seeing objections that way as chances to reinforce that core equation, no change equals loss, change equals growth, the whole dynamic changes. Objections become clarifying moments, not conflicts.
Okay, so with all this focus on gaps, problems, consequences,
Right.
where do relationships fit in? Do they still matter in sales, or is it purely about the logic of problem solving now?
Oh, relationships are absolutely fundamentally crucial. You can't skip that. Think of it like this. The relationship, the trust you build, that's the key that unlocks the door. It's only when customers genuinely trust you, when they feel comfortable, that they'll actually open up, share their real problems, their hidden worries, the pains they might otherwise try to hide or downplay. Without that trust foundation, you can't even begin to accurately diagnose the current state that gap selling relies on.
That makes total sense. You need that connection first to even get to the real issues.
Precisely. But here's the thing. While friendship, or at least rapport, opens hearts, it's the effective problem solving that actually closes deals. The winning combo. It happens when you build that strong relationship and you clearly demonstrate you deeply understand their pain and you offer a practical, compelling solution. That combination creates this really powerful dynamic. The customer stops seeing you as just another vendor trying to sell something.
And start seeing you
As someone who not only understands them on a human level, but also has the key to genuinely solve their pressing problems.
It's like the relationship opens the door, maybe gets you a seat at the table, but the solution to their gap is what actually seals the deal.
You nailed it. And the goal isn't to somehow trick or pressure them into saying yes. It's about providing such clarity, such a compelling vision of moving from their current pain to their desired future, that the customer naturally arrives at their own conclusion.
Yeah.
Yes, this is exactly what I need. Which leads us neatly into the final piece.
Right. The master stroke, as you called it. How do we actually close the deal? How do we get to the finish line without being perceived as, pushy or aggressive? That's the part everyone dreads, right? Both the seller and the buyer.
And the beauty of doing gap selling correctly is that the close isn't some separate high-pressure event you have to force. It becomes a natural, organic outcome of the entire journey we've just walked through. Think about it. If you have genuinely, clearly, and compellingly defined their current struggling state, if you've painted that desired future state so vividly they can taste it, and if you've made the gap between those two states feel so large, so consequential that they truly feel the significant, undeniable cost of doing nothing, then the closing part often just happens, almost by itself.
So you're saying if you've done all that groundwork meticulously, the close isn't this big, scary step at the end. It just sort of emerges from the conversation.
That's essentially it. Go back to our doctor-patient analogy one last time. A patient who's in real pain, who feels heard and understood, who's been accurately diagnosed, and who trusts the doctor offering the right cure. They don't need to be pushed into accepting the treatment, do they? They're usually eager for the relief.
No, they're asking for it. When can we start?
Exactly. The same principle applies here. When the customer clearly sees the immense value in bridging that gap you've uncovered together, they'll often proactively move towards the solution themselves.
Can you give us one last example where the closing feels like just the obvious next step for the client?
Okay, imagine a business consultant. Instead of a hard sell pitch at the end, they simply present the clear findings. Look, based on our analysis, your current structure is unfortunately leading to a potential loss of, say, 10 lakhs every month. That's the current state pain, quantified. Now, here's a future state we've mapped out. With these specific strategic changes we've designed for you, we project transforming that 10 lakh monthly loss into a 10 lakh monthly profit, likely within about 6 months.
Wow. At that point, you barely even need to ask for the sale, do you? The client sees the stark choice themselves.
The equation becomes just crystal clear. Undeniable, no change, continued loss, change equals significant growth. When that reality is laid out so vividly, the decision flows naturally from the client. They aren't just completing a transaction, they feel like they're embracing a necessary, profound transformation for their business. And you weren't pushing a product, you were guiding them to a better future by making the cost of staying put impossible to ignore.
That really is a powerful framework to leave us with, isn't it? A fundamentally different way to think about every sales interaction. Moving from selling at someone to guiding with them. And you stop being just a salesperson and you become more like a trusted advisor.
Yeah.
Leading clients away from their current pain and towards that future game.
Indeed. And it taps into something fundamental because ultimately, every person, every business, they desire growth. They want progress. They want relief from struggles. They inherently prefer that over just staying stuck. So maybe here's a final thought, a provocative one for you listening. In your own life, maybe professionally, maybe personally, what gap might you be unconsciously tolerating right now? And what brighter, more impactful future state is potentially waiting for you if you just decide to truly see the gap and embrace the change needed to cross it.